So first off, I know it's been a long time no see kind of ordeal, but honestly, it's been a blessing to not be on social media for a few years. It's been really nice, but that's not what this video is about. So today I actually want to talk about something that God has really been dealing with me for really quite a while now. It started last year, and God just began reminding me of the book of Job. I was going through quite a bit of things like near the end of last year. It started kind of around like September, October. I remember in October, the dog that I had at the time, she was dealing with something where she became very itchy, and it was like no matter what we were giving her and stuff, she was still really, really itchy. And on top of that, I remember having unauthorized charges to my bank account. Someone was taking money out of my bank account without my knowledge, without my consent. And the same thing happened in November as far as finances. That happened again, except for this time it was a larger amount. And I just remember things kept happening in my life back to back to back. And God kept telling me, go to the book of Job. And when I would read the book of Job, I remember God highlighting something to me for the first time ever. Even though I had read the book of Job quite a bit before, this is the first time that God had really unleashed it and unraveled it in regards to this manner. And so I just want to read the book of Job just for a moment. Job chapter 1. In the land of Uz there was a man whose name was Job. The man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. His sons used to hold feasts in their homes on their birthdays, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came with them. The Lord said to Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered the Lord, from roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied. Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face, the Lord said to Satan. Very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger. Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing, and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, the fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground and said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. And so on this particular day, the Lord began to highlight to me Job chapter 1, verses 16, 17, 18, and 13, showing me how one messenger had just come to bring Job bad news. And while that messenger was still telling Job what was going on, the bad news, another messenger came with more bad news, and it just continued to come and come one after the other, telling him of what just happened, how basically disaster had struck his home, his livestock, his children. And so while I have been going through this time in life where it seems like a series of events, one after the other, something is going on, God will remind me that God is still God. God is still faithful. God is still good. And so I told you guys about some of the things that happened last year. And then recently in May, a little less than a month ago, my dog passed away. We had her for 7.5 years. I adopted her. She was 3 years old, getting ready to turn 4. And she passed away at the age of being 11.5. She would have been 12 in October. She suddenly got sick as far as we know. She was doing good one day, and it was like the next day she had stopped eating her food, and we took her to the vet. And we thought maybe something was wrong with her teeth because she wasn't eating food. And so they sent us home with prescriptions for in case there was something going on with her mouth. We brought her back home. We gave her the medicines. I think she did eat something that day, but then the next day she wouldn't eat again. And no matter how much I was switching different foods and trying different things, she wouldn't eat. And so we took her back 2 days later, and the doctor did lab tests on her, and it came back that she had some values that were very high, affecting her kidneys. And he basically told me that she had kidney failure and that I should put her down that day. And that was a lot of news to hit all at once, you know. Your dog stops eating. You don't know why she's not eating. You take her to the vet, and they're telling you should put your dog down. And I couldn't do it. The type of people that God has created us to be, being full of faith and trusting God and believing God, I couldn't put her down. And so we believed God to heal Tinkerbell. And so Tinkerbell passed away on May 25th. It was a day shy of 3 days after us being told that diagnosis. And after her passing away, it has been a journey for me because, I mean, prior to her passing away, there were other things that has happened in life that kind of hit you unexpectedly. But knowing who God is, it's easy to just keep going and trusting God. Finances, I trust God. You know, all these different things, I trust God. And with Tinkerbell, I trust God. And so when she passed away, it was a big hit for me. Because I love that little dog. And if you would have told me on May 1st that by May 25th Tinkerbell would have passed away, it would have been so unexpected for me. And so going through this journey now of healing and allowing God to mend me and allowing God to help me so that I can be a better person than I was going through this situation, and allowing God to remind me of His Word, like knowing that God is faithful and that God will bring us through anything that we face. It's been a journey. It truly, truly has. And God just showed me, just like in the book of Job, where God allowed Satan to take from Job. He allowed Satan to take Job's children. He allowed Satan to take Job's livestock. He allowed Satan to attack Job's health. But in the end of Job 42, then Job replied to the Lord, I know that you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted. You asked, who is that obscures my plans without knowledge? Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. You said, listen now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you shall answer me. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. After the Lord had said these things to Job, he said to Eliphaz the Temanite, I am angry with you and your 2 friends because you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. So now take 7 bulls and 7 rams and go to my servant Job and sacrifice a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer and not deal with you according to your folly. You have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. And so I'm just going to skip down from to Job 42, verse 12. And it says that the Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. And he had also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And so in the book of Job, God is showing us that even though Satan was allowed to attack Job's family, his livestock, his health, how much God blessed him in the end. Because even though Job was going through those things, he never once cursed God. He never blamed God. I want to remind you is that no matter what you're going through, no matter what situation, no matter how hard it looks, how hard it feels, to look to God and to trust God that something good is coming out of this bad. And that was something that on many days, like I cried a lot of days and cried today, cried this morning, but many days God will remind me that there was a treasure coming out of this tragedy. You know, the way Tinkerbell passed away for me was a tragedy, and maybe I'll do another video or something going into more detail, but for me it was very, very painful because I never expected it. I never expected to see her that way, and knowing the type of dog that she was and the life that she lived, she was such a vibrant dog. She was actually the type of dog that strangers would literally see her and want to talk to her and want to play with her. Like, people loved Tinkerbell everywhere she went. In our neighborhood, people knew Tinkerbell. Like, there's Tinkerbell. People would get out their cars to rub Tinkerbell and to play with Tinkerbell. And so even in her passing, God just reminds me of so many blessings of having her and so many conversations that were had because of me having her, and so many people that I met because of me having Tinkerbell as a pet. And so, yeah, even in a tragedy, God can still bring you a treasure. The Word of God tells us in that we know in all things God works together for the good of those who love God and who are called according to His purpose. And so when we're going through a storm, no matter what it looks like, I just encourage you to pray. Days where it was hard for me to want to even do anything, I would just cry out to God, and even today and continuing every single day, I just would cry out to God, like, God, I need your help. God, I need you to help me get through this because I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I'm being real. These are the things that I felt, and these are the things that I expressed to God because God knows how we feel. He just desires for us to seek Him. He desires for us to come to Him in the storm. And so me wanting to be alone and be by myself, because at least if I'm by myself, I have the opportunity to just be in God's presence. Like, I might not have a whole lot to say, God, but I'm here. And I know that you can speak to me however you desire. And so just want to remind somebody that there's a treasure coming out of the tragedies that you went through and the tragedies that you experienced.